Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Ad Nastana. As always, it's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio, continuing that journey here in 2026 of light and knowledge. Guess who reached out to me recently? David Casotoe. Now, I knew David was going to be moving soon. Apparently he's already done it. Around the time he was moving, he joined the Oddfellows. This guy, he's just part of everything nowadays, eh? And he's not only has he joined the Oddfellows, he's now leading his lodge, right? And that will be my guest on it. I'll get back to that story, right? I'll get back to that story. I just love this guy, though. He does nothing by half measure. He really takes the bull by the horns when he makes a decision, right? But I'll get back to it. Just to give you some insight, because it's been a while since we covered the Oddfellows. The Independent Order of Oddfellows is a non-political and non-sectarian international fraternal order founded in 1819 by Thomas Wiley in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, the Independent Order evolved from the Manchester Unity Order of Oddfellows that was founded in England in the 1700s. The first known or documented Oddfellows meeting came from some documents that were found and the meeting was held around 1730 in England. So the Oddfellows have been around for a while, and you're going to be hearing more about this in future segments of Points of Light Radio when I do my World Leaders segments. But the Oddfellows have had and do have some prominent members of society in their ranks. Historically speaking, Presidents Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, William McKinley, Warren G. Harding, Franklin Roosevelt, and Harry S. Truman were all part of Odd Fellowship, as well as Vice President Schuyler Colfax and Thomas Hendricks, right? And there were many others. In Canada's case, our very first Prime Minister was also an Odd Fellow, right? And I'll be covering more about that as we move along. Now, like I said, David Castoe, he reached out to me recently, and he's a member now of the Oak Grove Independent Order of Oddfellows Lodge in Oak Grove, Missouri. He's also their Noble Grant. Like I said, this guy just grabs the bull by the horns. He just gets things done. Right, and I haven't saw him in a while. He reached out to me over Facebook. I haven't had the opportunity to speak to him or interview him for a while. So, right, I'm really looking forward to this interview. So, in your case, are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then you just trim your lamp and follow me. Mr. Castoe,
yeah,
welcome back to Points of Light Radio.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a minute, so, you are the Noble Grand of the Oak Grove Independent Order of Oddfellows. First of all, like I said, it's been a minute, so why don't you tell my listeners and viewers about yourself?
Yeah, I've been on here a couple of times. Through you just kind of introduced me, you might have noticed that I just moved this year from Colorado to Missouri, not change in industry, but change in employer. And so now I'm getting active in fraternalism over here in Missouri. And part of that is the Oddfellows Lodge.
Okay. Now, where is like I said, whereabouts exactly is the Independent Order of Oddfellows Lodge there, like the Oak Grove? Is that a actual city, Oak Grove?
Yeah, Oak Grove is I guess in reality, you could consider it a suburb of a suburb. It's about 45 minutes outside of Kansas City. So the nearest biggest town to us would be Blue Springs, Missouri.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I know Missouri's a pretty big state.
Yeah,
Now, what are your
and
duties as the
and the
noble
lodge
grade?
is
Oh, sorry.
and our lodge is located downtown. We have a lodge where we have it um, used to be a two-story building, but then there was a fire about 10 years ago, and when they rebuilt the building, um, they didn't build a second story where the lodge was held. We have our own room on the first floor, and then there's two other offices. So we have an insurance company that rents from us as well as an accounting firm.
Wow. Now, what are your duties as the noble grand?
Well, in this lodge, we're a struggling lodge. We've got about five active members, which is exactly what you need um, to open an Oddfellows lodge. So my duties really are just to run the lodge meetings, and then really I'm focusing a lot on getting new members in and trying to I guess improve the workings of the lodge. So maybe that might be possibly more enticing as people want to join.
Wow. Okay. So, and like I said, you have a way with you're a real builder. I'm sure you won't have a problem kind of getting that up and running. I've watched
Hopefully
you
not.
other
But
places too. So, yeah.
this lodge is in a pretty sweet opportunity where the lodges around it have unfortunately closed down, but we haven't really seen any membership come over to us necessarily, active members. But there's a lot of people around us that could use Odd Fellowship in their life. And it's our job to spread the news of
Well,
what they're missing out on.
Oak Grove itself, is it a growing town? Is it?
It is. It's a small town. The population's only about 8,000. But it's a small town, but there's lots of like I said, 15 minutes down the road is Blue Springs, which is I'm sure over 100 something thousand. So there's plenty enough population around to have a really good lodge. It's just getting people in it and getting them active and showing them that it's a good place to be.
And I've said this before because I'm in a growing city. Uh, this entire province I'm in is growing. And as far as I'm concerned, the growth in our lodges, and I think you'll agree with me, should be exponential to that. Doesn't necessarily have
Yeah.
to be growing by leaps and bounds, but we have to grow exponential to that. And you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we both understand that concept.
Oh yeah.
Now, how long did it take you to reach the noble grand position?
Well, my journey to the Noble Grand Chair is probably different than most others. I've actually only been an Odd Fellow since the summer. My journey into Odd Fellowship was a long one. I've been trying to become an Odd Fellow for about 4 years,
Okay.
and I never could find a lodge who, just due to the fact that I went to go visit one lodge and they had five ladies, and they basically said, we're not really interested in. They had a beautiful lodge room, absolutely gorgeous, huge, beautiful lodge room with old furniture, one of the oldest lodges in Colorado, and didn't even use the lodge room. They met around a table, and they
Yeah.
said they just weren't really interested in, trying to initiate anybody.
New
Um,
members. Yeah.
yeah,
They just weren't.
and I said, they're like, you can join if you want to, and I'm like, well, I don't want to join and not to get to ever see the degrees or anything. So I kind of just held off for many years. And then while I was in Oklahoma, a good friend, Garrett Height, he he said, "Hey, why don't you join a lodge in Oklahoma while you're here, and they could give you all the degrees, and then you can transfer up to Missouri." So that's what I did. I joined down in Oklahoma. They put me through all the degrees, old school,
Yeah.
and
You got them
yeah,
all in one day, a degree rally?
no, no, I got them all about a week or two apart from each other,
Okay.
and that was really nice. They put them on live. I didn't. I have never seen the videos yet. A lot of people talk about the Oddfellows videos. I have yet to see them. But I moved here to Missouri and they said, hey, all of us here have been the Noble Grand. We would love to have you in our Grand line. So you got to be a Noble Grand to, a past Noble Grand to do that. So why don't you sit as Noble Grand chair and we'll get you active in Odd Fellowship. So that's kind of my journey to the Noble Grand chair.
Wow. Now, I know we're a little early in the game, but do you have any plans, shall we say, to move forward into the uh, encampment or the Patriarch's Militant?
Yeah, I'm taking my first encampment degree second week in February. I'm taking my first degree in the encampment. And I don't know where my nearest canton is necessarily. Um, I know they have one in Missouri, but I'd have to look at that. But I know for sure we actually have an encampment here in Oak Grove. It's called Occidental, which means Western
Yeah.
encampment. And anyway, so I there is an encampment here. We have two. We have another one about 45 minutes down the road or so. There's another encampment and called uh, Kansas City encampment. And anyway, so I'll be joining the Occidental encampment second week in February, and I'm extremely excited, ready to don the fez and get active in the esoteric portion of Odd Fellowship.
Mm-hmm. And and so you're going to do that one degree at a time, I guess, right?
That's what it seems like they said is they're going to give me the first degree, and then maybe that next meeting they'll give me the second. So it'll probably take me about 3 months to get all three
Four
degrees.
degrees to it, isn't there?
The Odd Fellowship is
The
four
encampment.
degrees.
I'm
Encampment is three, if I remember right.
trying to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll take me probably about 2 or 3 months to get my encampment degrees all together. But yeah, I'm excited about
Encampment
it.
active though.
The encampment is active. They do
Good. This is
meet.
good. So
Yeah, of course, just like everything else, they're struggling to have members, but they meet every month. So
good. Good. Yeah. I do know that I can put you in touch with some people about that who've done the road trip. They had to do the road trip. I think you may have saw that on my podcast. They had
yeah,
to do a road trip to get all that done. So at least
yeah,
your road trip won't be as long, but
and
it
I'm
can be done, like we've talked about
yeah.
before. Like rebuilding, at least the infrastructure's there for that. So
Exactly. Well, and there's that Toby Hansen talks a lot about um, like that encampment degree rally thing in Oregon on that ranch,
yeah,
and I was telling the guys about it. And I said that would be really something really fun road trip together. A few of us to go road trip together to Oregon for the weekend and get to view that and meet those guys. I think that would be a blast.
I believe. Yeah, I
Yeah,
honestly do. Now the makeup of your lodge is interesting. Now you say it's been around a while. It's not just a
yeah,
bunch of like older people now, is it? Or
yeah.
you talked about?
Um, I'm the youngest by probably, I would say, 35 years or so. Um, I bet the next other person's got to be later 60s, early 70s.
Mhm.
Um, but so far there's two older guys and then two older ladies, and that's who makes up and then me, and that's what makes up our Oddfellows Lodge here. There's a couple of other people, of course, on the rolls, a few others, but I've never met them.
Yeah,
They don't come,
they don't
so
show up for lodge much.
yeah.
I. But is it? Is there anybody on the horizon? Shall we say any new people?
We had a guy who randomly showed up at our lodge at one meeting. He said he saw some Oddfellow robes and some kind of museum or some kind of show or something, some kind of like folk art show or something like that. And he just randomly showed up at our lodge at a meeting and said, "Hey, you want to join?" Thought the robes were cool. I looked it up. Seems like a great place to be. And we're like, heck yeah. He signed an application, did the whole thing. Well, he switched jobs and is now his job doesn't let him off on Tuesday nights.
Okay.
So that's kind of hindered us from that guy. And he was a younger guy. I'm guessing he was in his 40s. And so yeah, I'm kind of sad about that. So yeah.
Yeah. But now you're in a number of fraternal orders.
Hmm.
But how do you feel Odd Fellowship, shall we say, stacks up? Or you think it's like some people look at some of these other orders as just poor man's Freemasonry. You are a Mason.
Yeah, I am.
How do you
Yes,
think it stacks up to the other? You think it's standalone? It stands on its own, and
I do. I think the thing about Odd Fellowship that's so neat compared to Freemasonry is um, there's this almost I would say, and I would never, just as you said, I'm a Freemason, so I would never talk bad about
no, no,
Freemasonry in the sense that it's bad. Um, but what I would say is that, Odd Fellowship brings something different than Freemasonry can. And what I mean by that is that you're going to have a lot more. When I think of Freemasonry, I think of a lot of very, very traditional, very conservative, not in the political sense necessarily, but in the
yeah,
but in the culture of Freemasonry, it's
yeah,
very conservative. Like I said, not in the political sense, but just
mhm,
in the atmosphere, the culture, as well as, like I said, the very traditional, which I love. I love that. But with Odd Fellowship, you kind of get this early, of course it's not from America, but you kind of get this early American folk,
yeah.
feel to it. You get a lot of people were Oddfellows. I mean, I have a great great grandfather who was a member of the Oddfellows in my hometown that hasn't existed in a long time, but he was a member. A lot of men and women were involved. You've got and there's been this kind of reinvigoration, I feel like, in Odd Fellowship, due to a lot of people just getting and their hands in it and saying, "Hey, let's get this thing restarted and let's spread it." And I think it's great. I mean, we have people now making regalia for new collars. I mean, we're bringing back the collars. People are remaking them and making them nice and new. And so there's all of this reinvigoration. I feel like to be a part of that is almost like being a part of it when it was first hitting the ground in the 1800s and early 1900s. You're almost getting to be a part of almost the history of that again. And that's something I feel like you kind of don't get in Freemasonry, since Freemasonry is such a foundational, been around forever, most
Very, yeah.
likely pretty active type fraternal organization. In most cases, it is.
But I think,
And
sorry,
so,
did you see the recent segment I did with Brother Dominiac? You might have
oh yeah,
heard this, about autistic. How in some ways it's kind of interesting because Oddfellows have always attracted uh, individuals that Freemason doesn't. They're just going to be
yeah,
naturally being the
yeah,
odd individuals out. They've
yeah,
always kind of done that, and I think that's a wonderful demo. And I will say that
yeah,
when I was around Oddfellow circles, we don't have an Oddfellows here anymore. But when I was part of the Oddfellows back in Hamilton, I got to admit, a lot of them were people that would have never joined Freemasonry. In fact, I do remember a time my son's nanny growing up when he was that used to take care of him in the 90s. Her family were odd fellows and patriarchs milk the whole thing, and her mother was in the
yeah,
Rebeccas, and
yeah,
they would never go near. In fact, there was a very healthy rivalry in those days between Odd Fellowship and Freemasonry.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's something. So that's what kind of pushed me to join Oddfellows is number one, I felt like it kind of fit me. As you know, that I'm in like Lions like that, pretty community minded individual. And so Oddfellows focuses more on the community, and and like I said, you're kind of getting to be a part of this fraternal resurgence within this organization. I think it's honestly a cool opportunity. So I was excited to get joined up and be a part of that.
And what do you think it could really do for those, shall we say, thinking of joining it? Do you?
I think that if people join it realizing that, hey, it might not be what it was. You hear these stories about, like I said, the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. You hear these stories. of what it was like, and a lot of people want to talk bad about it. Like, oh well, yeah, we're dying out, and da, da, da. They want to kind of have a negative kind of, a negative tone. I think we need to have a positive tone. If you join a lodge kind of like I did, and there's five of us and we're meeting, well, instead of us just sitting back and letting it die, I mean, let's work together. Even if all we do is meet us five once, our two meetings a month, whatever, let's put the collars on or the chains, and let's, um, you know, do the opening the correct way.
It's
Let's
easy to
sing
get
the
lazy, but you
Yeah,
have
let's
to.
sing the odes. Let's say the valediction. Let's do everything we would do as if there was 20, 30 guys here. Let's do it the exact same way we would if 20 or 30 people were here. If you're not doing that, who's going to want to join if you're just sitting around in a circle chit-chatting, and well, okay, that was the meeting night. No, you know, uh,
But you have to keep that practice up.
yeah,
And
you
I've
have
been
to
part of
keep it.
something
Yeah,
recently
and I
where they
think
were
that
doing that. They weren't holding
when
proper
when
meetings.
you do that,
You forget.
the things that you learn from the valediction, the things you learn from the odes, the things that you learn from the ritual, those are the things I keep with me as I go about my day. Each day I remember those types of things, and they make me a better person, as well as the friendships I'm making. I just moved to this town, right? I'm new to this town. I joined the Oddfellows Lodge, and now I have friends right here, people I talk to, people I laugh with, people I joke with, and people who I get to work towards something with that's a positive for our community.
And it's like I said, it's easy to get lazy because in one of the organizations I joined recently, you could see where they'd stop doing that,
Yeah.
and it took a while to bring it back for everybody to remember their step, their role in an actual meet. You need to
Yeah.
remember. You have to keep
And
that practice, man.
yeah. And see, that's what I love about this lodge is that I know there's only five of us, but the people there really do love Odd Fellowship. They really do believe in it, and they're okay with saying, "Hey, let's do more. Let's," they're okay with me saying, "Hey, why don't we all sit in the correct chairs?" Or, "Hey, why don't we try this or try that?" They're okay with those types of things, and that's wonderful. And not to say like I'm coming in as some kind of savior, because I'm not. They're coming in as a savior for me. I've always wanted to be a member of Odd Fellowship, and they're allowing me that opportunity. And I appreciate that.
Very, very true. Yeah, and on that note, Mr. Cousteau, I thank you for your time today, and all the
Yeah,
best to you and Grand Oak Grove, or Oak Grove Independent Order of Oddfellows.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Wasn't that great seeing him again? Right? I love that guy. I really do. And I love his passion. I always say that, right? I mean, there's so many things. I just love the energy he brings to fraternalism, and the things that we learned just from this segment, right? What did we learn going forward? You know, it ties in well to some of the lessons we've learned here on Points of Light Radio, right? What does fraternalism do? He was able to instantly make friends in the new town he moved to, right? And he's been able to come fully engaged in his new Oddfellows Lodge. And I've said this before to you: if there's ever a time to get into a fraternal lodge, sorry, too much lasagna for supper. I mean, but if there's ever been a time to join a fraternal lodge, it's now. You will have a tremendous amount of influence. They needed him, brought him in. He's been elevated. He's already their noble grand, and right, and you can see that the lodge will grow. And he's also been able to kind of revive the encampment that meets out of that same lodge, right? And I'll tell you right now, if anybody can bring this lodge back, it's Brother Castoe. I mean, we need more men and women like David Castoe in fraternalism. We really do, right? And he will be back to tell us how this journey goes. right? You can see that he's already planning his next move, like up through the encampment and probably into the Patriarch's Mountain. He will be opening a canton there. I promise you that. Like I said, he'll be back, and I can't wait. But for now, the gym's waiting for me down the hall, so I've got to move on, right? But before I go, as always, first of all, I want to draw your attention to the PayPal link in the details section of this segment, right? You can hit on that, make a voluntary donation to the podcast. We will move that to move Points of Light Radio forward. You can also, I'm going to remind you that this podcast is available on YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. My Facebook link is at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. My Bluesky handle is at polightradio.bsky.social. You can also see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, it's been wonderful seeing our guests today and fellowshipping with you again. And until we meet again, just step into the light.